Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football and welcome back to the Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy C.J. Vogel, and our own coach, former high school football coach at Burnet, Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan. Also played college football at Abilene Christian, coached there as well, and was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head football coaches. And now you can catch his work at ShipleyRanches.com. It's our own coach, Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Hey, doing good. How you guys doing? Beautiful day, man.
Beautiful day. Yeah, it looks like spring in Texas. Feels like spring. It's starting to get a little hot too, man. It's like 80-some degrees here. But yeah, glad you guys could join us wherever you go joining us from. Hope the weather is really nice there as well. You know how it works. You guys drive the show any direction you want to. Questions, comments, throw them out there. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. Spring football practice, actually pads went on today, officially full pads on today. So we'll talk a lot of Texas spring football. There was supposed to be a media availability today, but that was postponed, rescheduled. So looks like we won't have any talk or any audio from the head coach, Steve Sarkisian. But I'll ask the panel here, if you did get a chance to ask Steve Sarkisian a question about spring practice, first week of spring practice, what would it have been? We'll get into that and talk some spring football. Recruiting nuggets. Matter of fact, we'll start with recruiting nuggets because CJ's got some nice tidbits for us in the recruiting realm. And of course, we'll get into that too. And if you guys want to dive into any other discussion, we can do that too. Oh, also, I want to get into this. I want to ask Coach actually about the Kenny Dillingham. There's a Kenny Dillingham story out there that he decided to open up his the Saturday of his spring practices open to the public. It's going to be like this, a special kind of public showing every Saturday. And he did it for a specific reason. So I want to get Coach's thoughts about that. It's definitely, I think, someone who's kind of diverging away from the spring practice, really kind of the motive of a lot of coaches lately as it relates to spring practice, which is, hey, we want to be able to control it, and we actually want as little access as possible to the public. Kenny Dillingham going the other way. So we'll talk about that coming up a little bit later on. Also, Sam Ehlinger did sign with an NFL team, signed with the Broncos on a one-year deal. I want to get you guys' thoughts about that. So a lot to get into on the show today. But first, let's talk recruiting, CJ, because I think you got some recruiting nuggets for us that could be pretty relevant for this 2026 class, or are we talking about down the line? What are we looking at here?
Now, 2026 action, of course, Texas earned a commitment on the weekend from Nicholas Robertson, the offensive lineman out of Klein out in Houston. But another big-time prospect on campus currently, and that's Kosi Okpala, the linebacker out of Mady Creek. So I'll pull up his junior huddle here real quick. Heck of a prospect. And, Coach, I want to get your thoughts because off the edge, about 6'1.5", this is a violent football player. Really quick, great first step. Got a tremendous ability to get to the passer on campus today. This is one of Johnny Nanson's top prospects on the board, and so he's going to be taking it in. He was on campus for the junior day back in January. This is one of my favorite plays, by the way. Just get to the ball carrier and flatten him. So big time prospect out of Mady Creek, has official visits right now set up to Baylor and Penn State as well. I know Texas A&M had been after him as well. But Coach, what do you like so far? I know we've only seen a few clips. But what do you like so far about Kosi Okpala?
Well, the dude's got a motor, man, and he's a playmaker. You know, you lose a little bit with a shorter guy like that off the edge. You lose some of the ability to bat down passes, but it's much more, to me, difficult for the offensive line to deal with a guy with his athleticism, even though he's only 6'1". Who's going to have the advantage when it comes to leverage? You know, it's going to be really hard to get your hands and your pads under that guy to block him. You know, and so he's going to have the advantage, and the way that he, from what I've seen, the way that he's, look at that, very patient, waiting. He had responsibility for the quarterback, but the way that he changes direction, the way that he has that burst to get to the ball carrier, and not only does he have that burst, watch him when he gets to the ball carrier. His feet typically don't stop. They keep driving through the ball carrier as his arm, a lot of times, if he's in the correct angle, tries to rip out the ball. He's just a great all-around ball player. I love what I've seen from him so far.
Yeah, he's an active guy. And again, there's violence, there's explosiveness. You see the first step right there to elude a blocker off the edge on campus today. So we'll be monitoring him, of course, and what's to come with his recruitment moving forward. But right now, that's a great sign for the Longhorns. Also on campus right now is 2027 offensive lineman Kennedy Brown, one of the top prospects in the entire state out of Kingwood. So another big-time offensive lineman. Again, that 27 class, Texas had a number of big-time prospects on campus for the offensive line 27 this past weekend on Saturday. Kennedy Brown certainly going to be one of those guys that they hone in on moving forward as well. And then Damod Lewis, a 6'4" defensive end out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We've seen the Longhorns start to push more and more and more in January to North Carolina. Well, you see why. Damod Lewis, one of those guys, specifically in terms of, well, they're 6'4" and they can rush the passer. That's one of the big traits coming out of North Carolina. So that's the recruiting update currently. I'll bring up a photo of Damod Lewis here in a minute, Rod, but a lot going on in the 40 acres, including some football being practiced once again on Monday.
Yeah, so you said, let me make sure I got the name right. Kosi Opala?
Yes.
Okay, did I get it right? Then, yeah, great job, because I got it from you. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how to say it. I do. I like his feet. He's so quick that I don't even know if he's using his hands well to shed blocks and get off blocks. He just avoids them a lot of times instead of having to actually take on the block. So I bet, his probably hands could use a lot of work, but man, his feet and his eyes as a player are great. You can tell because he tracks the football really well, and there'll be times where he'll just avoid the blocker altogether. He's like, "No, you're not. I don't have to confront you at all. I'm going to the football." He's so quick that he can even slip blocks a lot of the time and still kind of get back in his gap if he needs to. I love that kind of game because I'm looking at kind of the eyes and the feet and the hands of the player, and I don't even know if he uses his hands that well until he gets to the actual football. In terms of shedding blocks beforehand, he doesn't really show a lot of that because I don't think he needs to at that level. He just gets around him because he's got really good feet and really good quickness. And like you said, his first step usually can get him past the initial blocker anyway. But man, there's a lot to like about it. He's a disruptor. There's no doubt about that. Like he just disrupts the whole play. Can be a game record potentially. And I think he could be. They plan to use him on the edge a little bit. I think you can use him on the edge.
Yeah, I think so as well, Rod. Here's Damod Lewis, the edge rusher out of North Carolina as well. Just long-limbed, really lengthy there. You see him with Alan Clark there on his visit today. But, again, a lot of raw potential, and that's what you're starting to see this staff start to pursue more and more of off the edge is just those lengthy guys who can get going. And Smith Orogbo, another one of those guys, 6'4", 210 is what he was listed at coming in to campus. He's going to be a long-term projectile guy in terms of how long it takes him to get fully developed. But that twitchiness, that length is something that the staff prioritizes. And you're seeing exactly why with some of these results with a number of these guys already on campus, including a Colin Simmons, Colton Bosick, Zena, who's making big steps as well.
Lance Jackson, that dude looks different too. Yeah, I mean the edges. As a matter of fact, that's a good conversation. I think we were just talking about this yesterday, and we'll get to your questions, guys. We see them there. We promise we'll get to the questions. But we were talking yesterday about how deep they were at the edge. The conversation among the chat was about Trey Moore, and I guess if I had a question I could ask Sark, kind of getting to that topic, and there's a question I could ask him, it probably would be about Trey Moore either being cross-trained or playing more linebacker at this point so far this spring, whether that's more experimentation or that's more, them obviously looking to maximize his talents elsewhere. Right. I'd be really interested to hear what Sark had to say about Trey Moore now, because to me, that's been a really hot topic lately about him playing more at linebacker instead of on the edge. And they are really deep on the edge. Hell, I think they're really deep at linebacker too. So yeah, what's going to become of Trey Moore? I think would have been my question for Sark. Like, what's y'all's plan for Trey Moore?
Yeah,
this spring?
Rod, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How often does it happen? Does a guy, and you know where I'm going with this, like Trey Moore, maybe go into the head coach's office and say, you know what, I'm thinking about a position change. You know, he kind of sees a talent there, but also looking ahead for his own future. If the University of Texas is getting this type of talent in off the edge, certainly it's going to be in the NFL, no matter what franchise he goes to. So is it possible that he's looking at linebacker maybe being a place where he fits better in the NFL? And is that something that you saw very often on the team as guys going in and when they kind of see the writing on the wall or they see maybe next level that maybe, you know, maybe I would fit better as a linebacker?
I remember a few guys moving positions in the secondary specifically. Coach Aquino was always open to the idea that, hey, if you want to go compete at another spot to see, you know, to get reps and to see playing time, you know, he was open to it. And that's why you saw a lot of guys like Ahmad Brooks, you know, lose his job at corner and end up starting at safety. A guy like Adrian Phillips ended up, you know, moving and starting at different places because they were just looking for playing time. They were really good players. So I do know there is some of that. I also know guys who just body change, so they end up moving positions because coach is like, you know what, you don't look like a, you know, you came in looking like a linebacker, now you kind of look like a defensive end, and so that happened as well. So I'm sure these coaches probably would be open to it if that. When Bobby talked about it yesterday, Bobby essentially implied that it's a little bit of both. That maybe the NFL projections are more of that of a linebacker potentially, and that, you know, Texas right now that they're so deep at edge right now that, hey, you know, they're looking for a place for Colin Simmons to get more reps and some of the other guys to get more reps. I listen, I don't know exactly what's going on. It's an interesting time to me. It's intrigued me. I think it's really compelling because he's finished the season so strong. And you have so much depth at both linebacker and edge. You know, I just don't know what the plan is going forward. I would love for them to just be cross training him, and that would be great. But if it's to move him to linebacker, then I do have probably more questions.
I think it could be also good strategically to have him at linebacker.
Oh yeah.
Then you can shift down to a bare front and you know move the defensive end in. Put him on the edge, and now the offense don't have the right personnel on the field because the defense didn't sub anybody out. You know,
totally agree. Love that, coach. Love that idea. No, I do. That's what I'm talking about. That would be cross training to me, where you're trying to find a way to weaponize him in a different way. I get that, but if it's just moving him to a different position, like and not being a strategic thing or a matchup based thing, then I don't know. Like I said, I have questions. That's all. I have questions about it.
I'm there too because, again, you bring in a Brad Spence. You know what you have in Anthony Hill. Those were kind of the two guys that you figure to be your blitzing options at linebacker. How much more did you need necessarily with Trey Moore, who we didn't see a whole lot drop back into coverage? So it's going to be interesting to see what they do from there. But point being, if you got a Colin Simmons on the field, Anthony Hill on the field, a Trey Moore on the field, and then you go add another edge rusher on the opposite side, good luck. Who knows what you might need or what you might get out of that defensive line room? All I'm thinking is you got 4 bona fide guys that could get you 8-9 sacks in a given season. We just saw 3 of them. Now, what else can a Colton Vasquez, Zeno Umeozulu, Lance Jackson, Ethan Burke give you? It's a lot of talent right there.
Yeah, maybe this is all, you know, situationally they can just use Trey Moore, as Coach mentioned, for some of those exotic packages, or maybe just, hey, he's our third down guy on third downs. We know what's happening. That's part of the NASCAR package, but maybe the NASCAR package was mostly utilized on third and longs, third and 7+ yards to go. Maybe they figure, hey, on 3rd and 5+, or 3rd and 4, their teams are still throwing the football 65+% of the time. We're still gonna have Trey Moore out there as our situational pass rusher on some of those downs, and maybe it's in a manner like coach is saying, where you can put him at linebacker and then start shifting the front and make it malleable, and then really create some nightmare situations for opposing quarterbacks. I would love that, by the way. That'd be awesome. That's what I'm hoping is the case. I'm just hoping that's the case. G-Town, yeah. So sorry, go ahead, Coach.
No, I was just going to say, both sides of the ball, the staff is always looking for substitutions. You have people in the press box that are designated to continually tell the coordinator or whoever he's supposed to tell, hey, it's going to be 11 personnel, it's 12 personnel, it's 21 personnel, whatever. And then the same thing with defense, they're going heavy, they're going NASCAR, they're going whatever, and so it affects, it's a chess match. It affects the personnel that you put on the field as well. And it affects your play calling on both sides of the ball. So I think I like that kind of stuff. I love the way this staff cross-trains guys.
No, I do too. You guys know I love multiplicity and versatility. And that's like I said, that's what I'm hoping it is, a cross-training measure so that you can maximize him in other ways. I'm just hoping it's not, let's just move him to the linebacker. Because I don't, Trey Moore, I think, is an impact player. If you look at your best natural pass rushers, he's among your top 3 best natural pass rushers, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think, right? I think it's obviously Colin Simmons, number 1. Hell, Anthony Hill might be in that conversation as well. And then I'd put Trey Moore right there. So there's no way they're going to waste that ability unless these young guys have totally taken a huge leap forward. And then maybe that's why, like, oh no, we're not going to even need a guy like Trey Moore, who got you, what was it, 6 sacks last year, somewhere around there. So we shall see. I like that G-Town Eagle comment. He says, imagine a NASCAR package with Simmons and Vosick on the edges, Burke at D tackle, Hill and Moore at linebacker. Listen, I love the NASCAR package. I think Simmons is definitely, he was, my opinion, the most showcased, if you utilize talent in the NASCAR package last year. All right. I think 7 of his 9 sacks came in the NASCAR package last season. So I'm with you. Simmons and Trey Moore's definitely got to be out there. Now, having him at linebacker, that is different. I would bump. Last year, Barron Sorrell did a great job bumping inside. This year, is it Vosick or Burke bumping inside? I'm not sure. I think it's one of those 2 guys you bump inside. But this year, do you want to have like a young Justice Terry out there in the NASCAR package, since he's one of those certified freaks? But that's a great point, though, G-Town Eagle. Maybe that's something they could use in the NASCAR package as well, because they got a NASCAR nickel. NASCAR dime they used a lot last year. They also got a NASCAR nickel package that I like to use when they put 3 Ds on the field, and maybe they can do something funky with Trey Moore in that. So
yeah,
that would have been I love the NASCAR pack because it's like Avengers. It's like all of my favorite Texas defenders on the field at one time. It's a beautiful. That's why I love it. It's a beautiful package, but you got to earn the right to do it. It was usually on 3rd and long. Okay. Let me ask you guys, what if you guys had a chance to ask Sark a question? Because I said mine would have been about Trey Moore. I'm sure he wouldn't have went that long explaining it. But what would you have asked Sark about? What would have been your question, CJ, for Coach, if you could have asked him something at the scheduled media availability, which got rescheduled?
I would have asked him about the tight ends. How are they coming along? Because that's a group right now that we just don't know a lot about, right? Jordan Washington got dinged up on Saturday. He left practice in a sling today. So that leaves you Spencer Shannon as the only guy who's been around this program for multiple years at the position, right? Ridge Barker, the walk-on from Lovejoy, is on campus. He was running with 3rd string when media was there last Tuesday. How's Amari Winston coming along? What more does this room need to prove before the fall comes around? Is Texas going to be super active in the portal? We'll have to wait and see. My bet is, yeah, they absolutely need to be, even with Nick Townsend coming in the summer. And again, Nick Townsend was on campus on Saturday. He wanted to come in as he graduates in May to get a little bit more acclimated with the playbook, right? To kind of be around the room, go through a meeting, see what the spring looked like. And of course, when he arrives in June, maybe speed that process up to getting on the field just a little bit more. He's going to be a heck of a football player, but that's a lot to ask for a guy who's been on campus for 3 months before Ohio State comes rolling around. So I'm not ready 100% yet to say, hey, that's your job. You got to get out there, go block, a JT Tuimoloau, a caliber guy from Ohio State. That's a lot to ask for a guy just graduating out of high school. So for me, what's the outlook in the tight end room right now? Because we know Texas has had great tight end play with JT Sanders and Gunnar Helm over the last 2 years. How much of a weapon that might be for this offense with a new look with Arch Manning. So I'm excited to hear how these guys grow in the spring, but also what that room and what that confidence in the room is like currently as we progress further into week 2 of spring football.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm actually doing me a little deep dive on tight ends right now in the tight end position and trying to predict what Sark's going to do with it because, Bobby was talking about this the other day. That Jordan Washington may not necessarily be ready for that role just yet to take on as the coach, the lead guy. He will be. He's got tons of upside, but what if he's not? And if Spencer Shannon may be more the guy that at least gives you more of a all-around package for an inline tight end, a more consistent inline tight end. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then like CJ says, maybe you got to look elsewhere. Try to bring in somebody else to supplement, kind of money ball the tight end position. If you don't have a guy that you believe, hey, this guy could be out there for every down, because you may not have that with these 2 tight ends. So tight end's going to be, I think, Coach, it may be one of the biggest question marks for me. I agree with CJ so far this spring, going into it, no doubt.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. But I think there's enough talent there that somebody's going to surface and, take over the reins of that position and the legacy that's being reestablished at the university in that position. Having one week down and really the first padded practice today, I don't know that he can tell a lot about offensive linemen, who the next Trevor Gouldsby is going to be, defensive line. My question is, what's his impression after 1 week of the wide receiver room? And who in that room is standing out to him? Maybe even a dark horse that he might not have been, really that high on, certainly not in that circle we talk about, but just how are those guys progressing and who is it that's really, because, those wide receivers, man, those first few practices, they're the light's shining on them, especially with all the opportunities these guys have with only one returning receiver that caught a pass in going through spring ball. What's it looking like out there, and who's got your attention after week 1?
I'll tell you one name that we've heard a lot, Coach, and I know that you were mentioning him earlier coming into spring, but Parker Livingstone's found the end zone multiple times so far in the spring team sessions, and that's one-on-ones. That's ones versus ones as well. So far, he's been a guy that's made a lot of noise. On the flip side of that, in the younger group, look, all 4 have had their moments, right? And I think that's really encouraging. We'll start with Dalen McCutcheon. With no DeAndre Moore there, he's seeing some time with that first group in the slot. That's kind of where he's been pegged to be starting his Texas career. Jamie French has been a playmaker already as well. And Michael Terry, being a guy that got here in December, a little bit earlier than the rest of the early enrollees, a little bit more acclimated. He's been about the team, a guy who's still a bit raw at the end of his routes, but a guy who off the line of scrimmage has a lot of athleticism, and then the hands and the body of Khalid Lockett. That's been something that I've heard a few times, as when he pieces everything together, when he gets a full, knowledge worth of that playbook, he's going to be a handful to cover consistently.
One thing that I admire, and not because it's personal to me, but Parker Livingstone, he's reached out to Jordan, and he's trying to pick Jordan's brain on everything to separate himself and and be an elite receiver with the unmeasurables. And so when a guy is willing to humble himself and call an old timer like Jordan and say, "Hey, man, let's get together. What's your thoughts on this? What about that?" So it's been really cool for Jordan to be able to do that, but also for Parker to be so willing to prepare himself and leave no stone unturned. What can I add to my toolbox?
Love that.
You can't measure.
Man, that's a nice little nugget right there, Coach. I mean, he is the GOAT. in my opinion, in terms of wide receivers at Texas. But still,
I'm talking about Parker.
I'm talking about Jordan.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, reaching out, that still though shows the humility, and it's like, hey, I can learn so much from a great receiver like Jordan. Exactly, who better to call? I totally agree. I'm with you, and this is what I love about Jordan's game, and you said it too, Coach, and we heard him say it when we got a chance to speak with him, courtesy of you hooking that up, Coach, was, he became a better receiver after his injuries, in his opinion, even though he wasn't physically as formidable as he once was prior to the injuries. He said he was a better overall receiver because of his understanding of the game and his understanding of route running and how to create separation and how to set DBs up based on certain routes and the way he released and just the sort of nuances of it. And that's what you can teach. Now, like I said, you can't teach God-given. You can't teach somebody how to run a 4.29 like, Matthew Golden or that, that freakish stuff. You can't teach that. But in terms of route running, setting DBs up, knowing about leverage, knowing about, how to essentially create separation with different routes that you're running and how to consistently make the routes look the same, but still be able to set DBs up in different ways based on the coverage and based on their technique. I mean, that's all stuff you can learn. That's the stuff you can learn. Those are skills you can cultivate. Glad to see Parker wants to do that because that's what Jordan said he got really good at.
We talked about this one time, Rob, but one thing that Jordan told me that after he told me, I tried to instill it in the receivers that I was coaching later. But he said, I don't know if you remember this conversation we had, Rod. It may have been a year and a half or so ago, but when a wide receiver comes off the line of scrimmage and he's looking at the DBs in the eyes, he's probably coming to block you. But he's looking off and, if his head's kind of looking around and he's trying to read coverage, stuff like that, it's going to be a pass.
Yeah.
If he's locked down on you eye to eye, he knows it's going to be a run.
Yeah.
And so little things like that Jordan was able to develop through trial and error. I don't know, maybe sitting around with DBs trying to talk to them about what's a dead giveaway for a receiver. I don't know, but I see Parker doing that type of stuff. What little nuggets can I take that can elevate my play.
And what was Jordan's first year, Coach, at Texas?
2004. 2004 was his first fall.
And that's what he said too. He said, to your point, he said early on, I went up against some really good DBs, like some of the best in Texas football history, 04, 05. Like he was there with some of those great DBs. And he said he soaked up a lot of information about coverage and technique and a DB's way of thinking, to your point about looking a DB in his eyes to make him relax and think, oh, this ball's about to block me. And then boom, didn't break it down on him. I mean, those are things that, are invaluable, like you said, immeasurable to the success of a wide receiver. So listen, I played against Jerry Rice when I was with the Denver Broncos. It ended Jerry's career. I mean, Jerry's hairline was receding. Remember he had them braids and the hairline started like in the middle of his head, like that old Jerry. I mean,
like a 6 head, you got a 4 head, 5 head.
Yeah. Coach, he had to be running like a 4.6. Remember they said Jerry Rice at his like pro day ran like a 4.5, 4.6, right? He was considered slow back then. And so he had to be running a 4.7 at that point. I mean, Jerry just was not fast at all. Jerry could still beat guys. He still got me on the 6 route. Oh, man. Still could set me up on the 6 route, Coach. And it was just the stuff we're talking about. It was just him being savvy about leverage. I'm like, I know Jerry can't outrun me. So I'm like, I'm not going to backpedal too much. He's definitely running an in and out, or he's going to run a stop. I know it's coming. And Jerry still got me on the 6. I had inside leverage on him too. And I'm thinking to myself, how did he get me? I went back and talked to Champ Bell. I was like, how did he get me? Champ, he's like, that's the GOAT, man. What you talking about? I got you. It's just, and some guys, once you understand it, once you really understand route running, that's just the art of creating separation. That 4.5, that 4.2, honestly, is not more effective necessarily than the 4.5 in terms of that. All right. That's enough. Thank you for. And we get to some questions here because I know we got a bunch of them. But I want to thank our sponsor first before we move on. Let's thank our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery before we move on here. Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, folks, and they won award after award for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan now available at your local Specs. You can give it a try there. Also, it's available at your local Central Market here in Austin. I saw a great display of Flat Creek Estate wine, and that's a good news because the good news is getting out about our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Not only do they produce some of the best wines on the market, but Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues, wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com, and really appreciate them for being a sponsor of the Winning Drive. All right. How about this? We got a super chat from Travis. Thank you, Travis. We appreciate it. He says, my brothers, it's been so long since I've been live with you. Thank you, Travis. We appreciate you. He says, please tell me you're coming to Fan Appreciation. I'm bringing the new 2019 Super Texan. Much love, brother. Thank you, Travis. We appreciate it. Yeah, Fan Appreciation. I don't even know if we're doing something special for Fan Appreciation or not. I've not talked to Bobby about it as a group. We'll be there, but I don't know if we're doing something as a collective group. And we will let you know if there's some details about that. I don't know. Maybe CJ knows something I don't know, but there's no doubt all of us will be down there.
Yeah, we'll be up there. I'm not sure what the plans might be, but we got a couple of weeks to figure that one out.
Yeah. So I'm not sure as like OTF as a company is doing something, but we're covering the event individually. So we'll give you the details if we find out something. There's no doubt about that. All right. I think we actually. All right, let's get back to the questions here. And then I got another topic I want to ask you guys about. How about this one from 817? Mr. Talk Too Much says, I only want to know about the kicking competition, and I'm on portal watch for one. That's the most important battle of the spring. No one is talking about. I would agree with you, actually. I think you're right about that being the most important battle of the spring. Nobody's talking about. CJ, I know you were on board for them bringing in potentially another option at kicker via the portal or specialists in general. I think you were kind of talking about that.
We have a kicking coach now, right? We have a real kicking coach.
Yeah, Texas did go get a specialist coach, so we'll see. But last Tuesday, whenever we, when media was out at practice, we did not see the kickers at all. So there was no indication of if it was Will Stone, if it was Bert Auburn, who was going with the ones. Of course, we did get to see Jack Bomeister with the punting squad as well. So he looked pretty darn good, I'll say that. But right now, not a lot of information about the kicking squad has been released to me, at least. And look, the next time, if we get a next time to go out to see practice, I'm sure that'll be something that a lot of us media folk will be watching because there just hasn't been a lot of noise about it just yet.
And I would like to think the kicking coach is scouring the wire daily and looking, he's not just going out and just, coaching kickers. I'm sure he's turning over every rock to try to find the guy.
If someone becomes available, I feel like it would be malpractice not to at least give it a shout. So,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. All right. Thank you, 817, Mr. Talk Too Much. I believe we got potential breaking news. And we got the man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Burton here to break it. What's going on, Bobby? Oh, Bobby, I think you're
muted. That's going to have to wait a little bit. Bobby's muted.
There you go.
Hey, I'm just following in my man Blake Monroe's footsteps. He's always muted. Hey, guys, good to see Coach Shipley. I hadn't seen him in a while. I wish I had better news this afternoon. But it appears Ryan Wingo, wide receiver, University of Texas, is out and may be out for the rest of spring with a hamstring issue. Happened late last week into the weekend, we believe. I think it may have happened Thursday, but he did not practice today, is my understanding, and they are holding him out right now. It is an issue because the Longhorns are already razor thin on the wide receiver in their wide receiver room, given that DeAndre Moore is also on the shelf with a toe injury. So essentially both starters, the only two guys that had caught passes for the Longhorns at receiver last year that were returning, are now on the shelf. I'm being told that Wingo, while it'll only be he probably needs to stay out 2 to 3 weeks, he's likely on the shelf for the rest of spring. They're going to be take every precaution with him and make sure he's back and happy and ready to go long term. We'll see what that means for the young 4 receivers that are on there from a recruit perspective. Michael Terry, we're being told, worked almost exclusively in the slot on Saturday during that practice. Khalil Lockett, Jamie French, Dalen McCutcheon also getting action as well. But a little bit of a setback for guys. One of the guys I think is a potential difference maker for the Longhorns in 2025.
It is a setback, but it's one of those things where he's just going to be out for the rest of the spring. He's a proven commodity in my opinion. Like, I know what Ryan Wingo can do. You'd like to have more time to work on chemistry, rhythm, timing, continuity with him and a new quarterback. I think that's, to me, the biggest loss is that you had one starter down, so you're not going to be able to work on that timing rhythm with a new quarterback. Now you got 2 starters down. So that's the big concern. They can make that up in the offseason. A lot of it, spending time 7-on-7, spending time working on the passing game. I think of it more of a great opportunity for some of these young guys. A lot of reps now for these young receivers. So this freshman class of receivers, great opportunity for them. And for some of the guys who may have thought, hey, I don't know what my role is, in this receiving room, you can go get it now. There's ain't nothing but reps out there. So
yeah, that's the whole thing, especially when it comes to 4 freshmen on campus currently. Yeah. Who starts to stand out, right, Bobby? We've talked about Parker Livingstone and how well he's been acclimating to Arch as the quarterback. But who else starts to stand out? Is that a Aaron Butler, perhaps? Is that a Michael Terry, Jamie French, Khalil Clark, and Dalen McCutcheon? Pick 1, pick 2, pick 3. Who knows? All of them at some point will probably be big-time factors for the Longhorns in their career. But will it have been this early that they expected? I don't know. So this spring, if there is a positive of this news, Bobby, it is that these guys who are just fresh to the 40 acres will be thrown into the fire with that first group going against some really talented defensive backs in practice.
Yes, and I think that the other thing that you talked about is the real issue. When you talked about chemistry, as I'm looking at a Shipley as I say this, McCoy to Shipley was like the ultimate chemistry, right? Combination for Texas, and so I think that's true. But I will say this: they ran a lot together last year on the second team.
It's true,
and so it wasn't. While Ryan Wingo certainly played as much as a first line guy late in the season, in particular, he spent most of the season with the second team, meaning those reps came with Arch Manning. But I think that y'all are right. I think the value comes in getting younger guys more reps, but the loss of potential chemistry building is maybe more of an issue. But we shall see as they go forward. Big news, in my opinion, because this is not a guy. There are about 5 to 6 guys on this team you don't want to hear the injury bug around, right?
Yep.
Ryan Wingo, in my opinion, is one of those. So tough to hear.
Yeah, it also is, in a way, could be a setback for those young guys, because here's a guy who can show them how to do it. Who can model and talk to him on the side. He can still talk to him on the sideline and stuff, but just it's always nice as a coach to have a guy who's been there and done it. He said, "Okay, watch Wingo. Watch how Wingo. Okay, now that's how you do it."
Mm-hmm.
But they'll get past it.
And what's interesting here is we've talked about it, kind of hinted at it. Jordan Washington also got dinged up over the weekend. What is the severity there? Hopefully not too bad. Hopefully not as long as a DeAndre Moore or potential Ryan Wingo, in which he misses extended time. But when it comes to Arch Manning, finding the rhythm with a lot of these guys with that first group, it's quite the hurdle currently.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Bobby. We appreciate it. Know you got stuff to do. Thanks for coming on and breaking some news with us, even though it wasn't good news, but we appreciate it.
Hey, I'm just trying to match those drapes that CJ's got behind him right now.
Oh, good, huh?
know where CJ is. I didn't even ask him about that. All right, let's ask him. Now I'm curious. Thanks,
Al,
Alex.
you
From
look
home
like he's
decor.
filled in, man. Y'all
All
take
right.
care, guys. Look up.
See you, brother.
All right.
All right, CJ. Where are you now, CJ? Now we got to get confirmation. Where are you? Why is the drape so nice? Where you at?
Well, we're just working downtown, getting a little change of scenery. You know,
I
sometimes you just stay at home too much and you forget what the outside world looks like. So nothing crazy, fellas.
Was there
This-
enough charge for those drapes?
Well, coach, I mean, the carpet matches, so it just might.
Bam!
You don't
There
have a
you go.
disco ball up in there, do you?
Hey, Monday fun day with CJ, no doubt. All right, Football Junkie here says, any updates? Thank you, Football Junkie, for the super chat. Any updates on Manny Muhammad or other rising juniors or seniors? Not much chatter on the older guys. Thank you very much, Football Junkie. You know what? I think that's kind of what was expected this season, and I'm sure there will be a lot of updates, obviously, as they put the pads on for the first time here, and what guys are standing out. But remember, Sark even said, and I'm paraphrasing, so I don't know exact quotes, but remember, he essentially said this spring was not necessarily for a lot of the proven older veterans. It was for a lot of the new young guys because they were such a young, inexperienced team that it was about teaching. That's why he was going to change up the structure of it and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not saying that obviously those guys aren't getting the work. They're getting the work. There's no doubt about that. But I just think there has been an emphasis, maybe even in the coverage of it, about the young guys. I'm with you. Going into it, Football Junkie, I wanted to know about the secondary, mostly not about Manny Muhammad, about the cornerback spot opposite Manny Muhammad. And I figure not a ton of news about it. Maybe that's good news. I have heard a lot of good stuff about the wide receivers. So maybe that's bad news for my DBs. CJ, what are your thoughts? I know you had a nice piece about some spring practice nuggets. Did you have anything on some of the rising juniors and seniors making plays?
Well, I'll say this about Manny Muhammad. Some of the conversations I've had, the first week or two about spring is just that, some of that chatter towards the back end of last year, I think is a little overblown, right? We've talked about it. Some of those throws that were completed against Clemson, some of those throws that were completed against Arizona State, and it was all, do we got to worry about Manny Muhammad? I'm here to say, no. This is a guy that started a lot of football as a true freshman. So for Manny Muhammad to come in as a third-year guy, one of the older guys in that defensive back room currently, I would say there's no concern for him. I've heard he's had a solid start to the spring. And just as y'all mentioned, pointing to Ryan Wingo in that receiving room as someone who's been there and done that per se, that's exactly how some of these young cats are looking at Manny Muhammad, who's coming in and really being one of those older States guys, especially at the cornerback position. So I've heard he's had a solid start and will continue to be CB1, if you will, taking in place for Jahdae Barron. Obviously, the Thorpe guy, big shoes to fill, but right now, solid start for Manny Muhammad.
Yeah. No, Manny Muhammad's got to get back to, I think last year what was shaken was his confidence, and that came after he had a few lapses in technique. I've already said Manny Muhammad's a technician. And when his technique is really focused, and when he's close to kind of basically perfecting his technique, refining it really well, Manny Muhammad, I'm telling you, can be an all-conference caliber DB. I think he can be that good. I think there were times last year where his technique failed him, and then as a result, I think his confidence got shaken toward the end of the year as a player. But I still doesn't make me doubt what kind of player Manny Muhammad is. I think he's a hell of a player. Like I said, if his technique's on point, I think he's got a chance to be an all-conference caliber type player. All right, getting back to it, but that's the breaking news was about Ryan Wingo. So very unfortunate about Ryan Wingo. Probably gonna be out for the rest of the spring. There's no way they're gonna have him with a hamstring injury and try to get him some reps at the end of the spring. So a lot of reps out there for those young wide receivers. Let's thank another one of our sponsors before we move on here. Let's thank our friends over at Von Lane. Von Lane, folks, trust me, if you have to travel or if you have had to travel between the major Texas cities, whether you're talking about Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, you probably tried flying, and that's a bit of a hassle. You probably tried driving, also a bit of a hassle. Well, now it's time for you to upgrade your travel with Von Lane, the smarter way to travel between major Texas cities. Let's face it, flying is a bit of a hassle with security lines and packed gates and delayed flights, all for just an hour flight. That's not worth it because it can be way too stressful, and then the prices in airports are ridiculous. Driving isn't much better. You have traffic you have to worry about, the hours of lost productivity, emails constantly piling up, you have calls going unanswered, work left undone, all that lost productivity when you could be capturing that lost productivity, and you could be connected with Von Lane. Von Lane changes everything, folks. It's luxury regional bus travel, what some people call a private jet on wheels. Sink into a plush leather seat with a leg rest. You can stay connected with complimentary Wi-Fi, enjoy complimentary snacks and drinks on every trip, plus delicious meals on select departures. And if you need to freshen up, you also can enjoy hot towel service. They have eye masks and pillows and blankets to keep you cozy. The Von Lane team takes care of every detail so you can sit back, relax, unwind, and enjoy the most comfortable travel experience on the road today. Now, if you're traveling for business purposes, you can recapture lost productivity. If you're traveling just for leisure purposes, you can sit back, relax, and get pampered by the Von Lane team. And if you're planning a very special trip, whether it be a bachelor party, bachelorette party, guys trip, gals trip, football game, concert, special event, you can charter your own Von Lane coach for the ultimate group experience. Visit vonlane.com. Von Lane is first-class travel without the hassle. That's vonlane.com, VONLANE.com, and use the promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip with vonlane.com. And we really appreciate them for being sponsors of the Winning Drive. All right, getting back to some of the questions here. Todd says, how do you see PK deploying Brad Spence? What are his defensive strengths? Brad Spence actually is I heard, and Jerry's talked about this. I've heard you talk about it as well, CJ. He's a really good off-ball blitzing linebacker from the second level. That's one of the things I think will be, utilized with him as a player, is that when he is in there. So I'm not saying they're going to use him only in that way, but I know that's one of the things that stands out about his game overall.
Yeah, I had a much clearer picture for Brad Spence before hearing that Trey Moore was going to be almost an exclusive linebacker now. So I'm not sure if that changes anything for Spence. Do they spin him down and play him more off the edge? I don't know, but I do know, to your point, Rod, he stops the run very well. He's able to blitz very well. He had 4.5 sacks for Arkansas. He had a sack against Texas in that game up in Fayetteville. But when you look at his frame, about 6'3", 45 pounds in that range, it's a big body. And it's not someone that you see walk by without saying, oh, wow, that guy looks like he plays some high-level Division I football, right? He's got that frame, especially at the top end. So I'm interested for both Moore and Spence. What do they look like in coverage? Are they deployed in coverage often? Very similarly to Anthony Hill, who kind of manned the middle of the field there, and you had a Liam Lafau to kind of complement one another there. What are the strengths? What are the give and takes between the two? But as we've talked about it, with the extended season, and with Texas looking to play 14, 15, maybe even 16 games again in 2025, you're going to need plenty of bodies in that front seven. And just as we've talked about on the running back side, needing to get almost all 6 of those guys touches early in the season, linebackers going to be very similar. And I think for Spence, beyond what he can provide for you going uphill, right, when it comes to run stopping, blitzing, etc., what does he look like in space and coverage? That's going to be something that I'm hoping to hear more about as the spring continues as well.
Yeah, how deep are you going to go at linebacker? Last year, you basically were 3 deep. And I think Ty Anthony Smith would have been kind of the fourth, right? Because they went Anthony Hill, Lafau, Benda, Ty Anthony Smith, got some run there. Mo Blackwell, a little run in there. Yeah. But there's a significant drop off from like the top 3 in terms of I don't know if you. I know CJ, you might have the snaps, but in terms of snaps, there's a significant drop off from those top three, correct?
Oh yeah.
So how many linebackers we think they're going to be in the rotation this year? Are they going to expand it to 4 guys that are going to get the bulk of those reps? Because I mean, you're not taking Anthony Hill off the field very often. You know, Young LaFau seems to be that second guy. Mm-hmm. I thought Anthony Smith would be getting some more run, of course. I mean, I'm with you. Was that Brad Spencer? Now is Trey Moore now considered to be the guy now that would be in that expanded rotation?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like 5 would have been the answer, but that's a lot more than what we've normally seen.
Yeah.
Shoot, depending on the spring for Bo Barnes, who's, again, 6'3", 235, 238 pounds, he fits that physical mold as well. So that it could, in theory, be 6. Now, again, that's a lot for what we have seen at a specific position like linebacker with this staff, but you have plenty of options. And again, it just kind of adds to what we all kind of are theorizing about in terms of how they're going to deploy this front 7 when it comes to their pass rushing, personnel on the field at a time. I'm just continuing to think, regardless of who you pick, 2 or 3 of the linebackers that we just mentioned, and then think of a Colin Simmons and a Burke Avosik at Umeozulu on the opposite side. And good luck. I mean, I just don't know how to defend those guys without, basically going max protect on every pass play.
Yeah. Maybe they just want a lot of pass rushers available at every level. You got them at the first level with your edges, and maybe they want more of their linebackers that can be pass rushers too. It's going to be fascinating to see because, like I said, I don't think you just waste the talent of a guy like Trey Moore. And maybe it is Trey Moore sees himself, or maybe he's being projected as a linebacker at the NFL level, and that's what he wants to do, kind of going to what Coach was talking about a little bit too. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but going to be fascinating to see exactly how it materializes. All right, getting back to the questions. My man CB says Sean Payton loves Longhorns. CB also said if he had a question he asked Sark, he would ask him, do you think you look like Sean Miller? Which he kind of does. I mean, they do kind of look alike. Even CDC actually acknowledged that too. But yes, to CB's point, thank you, CB. Sam Ehlinger signed a 1-year deal with the Denver Broncos, guys. So congratulations to Sam. Man, Sam has had I went and looked it up, guys. So this would be for Sam in his 5th year in the league, right? Going on 5 years for Sam. His 4th head coach.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
He had Frank Reich to start. He got, by the way, Frank Reich just got the job as an interim coach at Stanford. You saw that, Coach?
Stanford.
He's going to be and they agreed on 1 year. He's just going to stabilize the program for 1 year for Andrew Luck. And then they're going to find a new coach, basically use that time to find a new coach, and they'll hire one after this upcoming season. So Frank Reich's going to be for 1 year kind of solution for them. But he had Frank Reich the first year coach, and then he had do you remember Jeff Saturday? Don't forget about the Jeff Saturday experiment. Then he had Shane Steichen. Now he's got Sean Payton. And he's also had 4 different OCs in his 5 years and 3 different quarterback coaches. I'm just hoping my man Sam can get some stability. Sean Payton will, I think, provide a little bit of that because Sean Payton is a damn good football coach and a quarterback guy, so it's kind of a compliment. He'll be there with Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham in that quarterback room. His quarterback coach is Davis Webb. I didn't know that. It's kind of weird.
Davis Webb, Texas Tech.
Yeah. And so there you go. Congrats to Sam. He's going to be and some other Longhorns there too as well. Brandon Jones, PJ Locke is there. I think Malcolm Roach is there as well. So it's good news.
Sean Payton loves his Longhorns.
Yeah, he does. I'm hoping that it works out for Sam. I think he'd end up somewhere else too, but that's, I think, a good spot for him because I think he can learn from one of the best just offensive minds in the game in Sean Payton.
Who was the guy from BYU?
Oh no, Coach!
Made us look silly.
Oh, Taysom Hill.
2013.
The whole chat just logged out.
Taysom Hill.
Yep. I mean, that guy's found a way to league for a long time. I don't know why Sam they can't put in some good quarterback run passes, though, run options for him around, because he did it for us very, very well. Talking about taking care of your short yardage issues. He takes care of Sam will take care of the short yardage issue. There's no doubt who'd be carrying the rock if he was still on the 40.
Sarah says, can't say that name here. Yeah, he who shall not be named.
That guy, okay. But I don't get it.
I was there for that game. I was on the sideline for that game, guys. I was on the sideline for that game.
I was too. It was a long night.
Oh, a long night.
Rain delay.
Yeah. Oh man, that one hurt. That one really did. He's like Voldemort. Yeah, you go see me. Yeah, that's basically. We don't talk about that dude around here. Oh yeah. But yeah. So congrats to Sam, man. I'm happy that he's up there with some Longhorns, and like I said, with a damn good football coach. So maybe Sam will have some stability. That's a tough way to start your career with 4 different head coaches in your 5 years. All right. How about this one? Going back to it, James says, "Hey guys, are the Longhorns showing y'all anything special so far this spring?" Hook 'em. The thing that I've heard that is special is Arch he just looks as good as advertised. There's no reports about, oh man, Arch's a little shaky because he ain't got his receivers or whatever. Oh man, it's like, no, Arch looks the part. So to me, that's something. If you want anything special, that's the special thing. Special. Yes.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, Rod. And again, it's kind of tough, right? First 3 practices, you didn't get a whole lot in pads, right? So for the interior guys on that offensive line, for the newcomers on the defensive line, kind of hard to judge and get a true answer on what they might bring to next year's squad. But the one thing that we do know is that arm of Arch Manning, it's going to be pretty good. And I think that's what folks have expected or are going to continue to expect and will eventually see next fall when he gets trotted out on the field. But so far, so good for Arch.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, getting back to the questions here. Cade wants to know from you, Coach Shipley, what do you think of the Brownwood hire?
Well, I don't know the man. I know he's been in some great programs. His overall success as a high school coach, his record is not great, but he's been with some great programs. Of course, coming in from Katy High School. I don't know. I've got close friends on that staff who are not on that staff anymore. So, but it's the nature of the business, That staff that Sammy Burnett had at Brownwood was full of Brownwood Lions. I mean, almost every guy on that staff was a Lion, and that's what Sammy wanted to do, was create, a Gordon Wood type culture that everybody on that staff either played for Gordon or knew Gordon or was a Brownwood Lion. And so, change is hard, but I love the Brownwood Lions, and I wish them nothing but the best.
All right. Thank you, Kate. We appreciate the question there. How about this one from G-Town Eagle says, how's Vosik's health? That would be my question to Sark. How's Vosik's health?
It's a fair question.
Yeah, that would be a good one. I'm with you on that too. I appreciate that. All right. Let me, I saw this at Pro Football Focus because they are ranking best returning players at every position. They're doing the top 10 returning players at every position. They on the defensive side of the ball now. They've done D tackles, interior D line, and they've done edges. Colin Simmons was number 1. We talked about that. He's considered by Pro Football Focus to be the number 1 returning edge. They did linebackers, I believe, today. They released their top 10 returning linebackers, and they have Anthony Hill as the best linebacker returning in the country. Oh, thank you very much, Matthew. Have him as the top 10 returning linebacker in the country. So they got Texas with the best linebacker in the country, and they got him with the best edge defender in the country in Colin Simmons. When the secondary comes out, I'm almost at least one of your guys will be ranked in the secondary. Michael Taft will, I think, either Michael Taft or Malik Muhammad, if not both, potentially. But definitely one. You'll get, I think Michael Taft is more likely because he was an All-American. So you'll get at least one member of your secondary, which means you'll have a top 10 player. Hell, could even have a top 5 player returning at every level of the defense.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, what should the expectations be for the defense? I mean, you came off a season where you're one of the all-time greatest defenses in Texas football history. I have a hard time realistically saying, believing, Coach, they're going to be better, but they're going to be pretty damn good, it looks like here. I'm not going to say they're going to be better, man. They were a top three defense in the country last year. I don't see how you get better than that. But can they be are we looking at a top 10 defense? Can they be a top 10, top 15 defense, basically? That still puts you in the conversation to be, a great defense. Your top 10, top 15.
That I would have to imagine. So how good, Rod? What is that ceiling? Yeah. I'm with you. I don't know if you're going to see the same defense from 2024. Again, that was a national championship level defense, right? That's a defense you win titles with. So, can you replicate that? You got some really good firepower. And I think when you look at those explosive plays, those big game-changing negative plays that you create defensively, I think you might be in a position to create more up at the front. So I think that's going to be really interesting, right? You look at those edge rushers, you look at the blitzing options that we talked about up front in that front seven. Yeah, I think those numbers might be a little bit better in 2025. But what does that back end look like? You lose the Thorpe Award winner. Obviously, Texas had a great success with Andrew Makuba in its back end as well. But for the most part, that front seven is going to be pretty darn good. Big concern, run defense. That was a big concern last year. You ended up being pretty solid. But the one thing that we look at currently and say, hey, Texas should be able to put points on the board, running the ball against this defense right now, I would say not going to keep teams in games with what we're expecting on the offensive side of the ball for now.
Okay. Yeah. Coach, what are your thoughts about what the expectation should be for how good the defense is going to be this upcoming season?
I think they have the potential to be a top 5 defense. I really do. There's still some pieces of the puzzle. Obviously, we've been talking about it the whole show. I mean, there's some questions, but at the level at which we're recruiting defensive players, and we talk about this all the time. It all starts with the edge. You've got to have those edge guys, especially playing against the teams we're going to play against offensively. But I still think, and don't discount the addition of Coach Aquina and what he'll do with those young guys in that secondary and the energy that he'll bring to the entire defense. I mean, everybody feels. Heck, I was a fan in the stands or on the sidelines one year with Aquina, and I was fired up. I mean, he just raises the level of excitement of everyone around him. So don't discount that. But just talking about pure personnel, I think we have a shot to be a top 5 defense. I really do.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, you got the number one, potentially the best linebacker in the country and the best edge defender in the country. That'll give you a shot too. And you'll definitely have one of the best safeties in the country with Michael Taft. And I'm glad you brought up Coach Aquina. That was a picture that I think Texas football put out either today or I believe it was today of Michael Taft and Coach Aquina just vibing on the practice field, obviously talking about something. It reminded me of when I went to Pro Day. I went to Pro Day to go see Coach Aquina. It was great to see him. He's awesome, and he still coaches vibrant as ever. I mean, 68 years old. He ain't lost any of that intensity, all right, that he's got. But Michael Taft ended up coming around too while Coach Aquina and I were talking. And as we were talking, Coach Aquina and Michael Taft started having a conversation about, I guess, picking up on a conversation they had in the DB room about some adjustment that they were going to make in a certain coverage. And they did, boom. I mean, it was probably a good 10-minute conversation they started having about this adjustment they're going to have in a certain coverage. And it just got me to thinking how both of those guys I think are really going to be able to help the secondary, to Coach's point, play at a higher level because Michael Taft is such a disciplinarian when it comes to alignment, assignment, being in the right place, being able to erase a lot of mistakes in the secondary for young guys. I think that's going to be important this year. But then Coach Akina and him being able to be Coach Akina's eyes and ears and hell, even mouthpiece on the field. And so I think the connection and synchronicity between those two and him being able to apply and also implement all of Coach Akina's lessons on the field with a younger secondary are going to be key this year. So I agree with Coach 100%. I actually got a chance to witness it. They're already getting on it, guys. They already. I was surprised.
It's kind of. I see him, and I see people like, of course, Colt McCoy, Roshan Johnson, guys that just really played with incredible heart. Jordan Whittington, the kind of guys you hope will come back and be on staff someday, and bring that juice and bring that energy and bring that swag, whatever it is that they have, back to the university. I could see Michael Taft. I could see Jordan Whittington. I could see Rojo, those guys coming back on staff, and when I think about those guys, Michael Taft is an obvious guy where, heck, he's white DB. They call him a coach on the field anyway, right? That usually means you're not really going to outrun anybody or whatever, but you're going to get everybody lined up right, Yeah. And so anyway, I'd love to see him come back. Just want to throw that in there and be a Longhorn legend one day. He's already going to be a Longhorn legend when he graduates. Just his story is incredible, but just the way he carries himself, the way he's just so inquisitive and wants to know, again, every nugget he can find to help him be a great player. Those are the kind of guys you want on your sidelines for a long time.
Yep, totally agree, Coach. All right, let's thank our friends over at South Point Dodge before, I know we're getting close to the end of our live stream. We'll take some more questions before we end it, but let's thank our friends at South Point Dodge before we move on. You can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. As a matter of fact, if you're looking for a great deal, look no further than South Point Dodge. Right now, they have over 50 Ram 2500s all marked down with huge savings right now at South Point Dodge. You can go see them for yourself in person off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go online, make it easy for yourself. Go to southpointdodge.com and you can check out their fabulous inventory there as well. And we appreciate South Point Dodge for being a part of the On Texas football family. And remember, whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. That's Austin's automotive everything, southpointdodge.com. All right, let's get to a couple of other. Oh yeah, matter of fact, before we get back to the questions here, I want to get you guys' thoughts. Or coaches, I want to get your thoughts. So Kenny, I don't know if you saw this Kenny Dillingham video, but he said that he was going to open up his Saturday practices to the fans during his during spring. So Saturday, I don't know how many they have, how many Saturday practices. I'm assuming just a couple. And he said the reason is because he likes the pressure it puts on his players, having to perform in front of a crowd. He even brought up the fact that if they don't perform really well in that open practice, that they'll have to deal with the scrutiny and criticism of the fans on social media, the public shaming. If you go out there and you half-assed it, or you go out there and you get cooked in one-on-ones, that, hey, you want to hear about it on social media. And he said he's trying. He says it's the same type of pressure they're usually trying to apply to their program to get these guys to really take their competitive character to another level. But he said they're basically going to put it on steroids and let the fans see it. Now, he is telling the truth, actually. It does up the competitive juices, if you will, at practice. I remember, I'm so old, Coach. I remember when Mac Brown had open practices. I remember. They put
the bleachers on the sidelines.
Yes, Coach. Yeah. I remember it. I remember one-on-ones with open practices, whole nother level of intensity, because the fans would be out there. Essentially, they're out there heckling people. Ooh, wow, Beavers got cooked. I mean, they can't control themselves. They love football. So they saying the same stuff they be saying on social media right now. So CJ, they was out there saying it. And you can hear it. Now Mac stopped it because honestly, I think it got too crowded. I think there's some injuries, something, you can't do. I don't know if you can even do it at a program like Texas. I'm not saying Texas should be doing it. I just want to get coaches' thoughts about a coach going, he's zigging when a lot of college football is zagging when they're trying to have more control over the spring schedule and the structure of it and less access for fans and media. And he's like, no, we need that access. Not only is it good promoting the program, I'm assuming, but he said it's good for the competition level at practice. And I got to tell you, I agree. He's right about that. It works.
I tell you, unfortunately, the reason Mac stopped doing that is because when Jordan tore his ACL his freshman year, it was on the media. It was on social media before they had a chance to contact his mother and I. And so we found out before anybody from the staff called, and that did not go well with Mac at all. He's the one that needs to be calling, or the trainer calling and saying what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's one unfortunate thing. If there is an injury or something that happens, it's out there and there's no way to stop it, But I'm a big fan of Dillingham. I don't know if you read about what he did at first practice, but he played We Are the Champions, my friend. We are the champion. Over and over and over and over, like 10 times in a row. And finally the players said, "Hey, coach, we're tired of hearing that." And he goes, Exactly. Nobody cares you were Big 12 champions last year. They're tired of hearing about that. We that's over with. Nobody gives a flip anymore. Everybody wants to know what you're going to be this year. And so I just like that, a part. And Mac was that way. Mac was a psychologist / coach.
Yeah.
And so I like that. I think he's thinking outside the box, which I love coaches who think outside the box and don't say, well, that's just because we've always done it, or, whatever. But, he didn't have to say nobody cares anymore. He made them come up and say, "Coach, turn it off. Nobody cares about that song. I'm tired of hearing it. I'm tired of it." And he goes, "Exactly." I like that guy.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to get your thoughts about it. It's just interesting because we've been talking about Sark, his approach to spring, which is going to be different. Everybody's got a different approach to spring practices now. It's another approach that I wanted to get your thoughts on. All right, the big news today, which was breaking news, unfortunately. We talked about it with Bobby Kramer on the show a few minutes ago, but Brian Wingo with a hamstring injury, believed to be suffered last week, is not going to be available for basically for a few weeks this spring, and they believe they're going to keep him out for the rest of spring because it would make no sense to bring him back for spring practice with an injury and with so few practices to be able to utilize him. So you're going to have your top 2 wide receivers going to be out for the rest of spring. Now, no DeAndre Moore because he was dealing with a toe injury, but Ryan Wingo also is going to be out. Looks like it for the rest of spring. My man Bobby Burton came on and reported that. So a lot of reps and a lot of snaps open for the young wide receivers. I think that I'm not necessarily worried about Ryan Wingo. I think they'll just be cautious with him to keep him out the rest of spring. If you want to be stressed out about something, maybe the timing and rhythm of the passing game with a new quarterback like Arch, that be something. I'm not overly concerned about that at all. And I'm not necessarily concerned about Wingo. I think it could be a great opportunity for a lot of these young receivers, especially in this new class coming in, this 2025 class, to showcase, themselves and potentially earn a role. I don't know if they're going to crack the circle of trust. You would have to do a lot of things to do that because Parker Livingstone, we talked about him earlier, that he looks like he is firmly in that, or at least by the end of spring, he'll be in that circle of trust for the start of training camp. Can one of these other guys, potentially get into that circle of trust, or at least carve out a role in the wide receiving core? And who's going to take advantage of this opportunity, in your opinion, guys? Which one of these, either young wide receivers or guys who haven't necessarily, gotten a chance to create a role for themselves, who will benefit the most from these extra reps available?
I'll take Parker Livingstone out of this conversation because I think he's already kind of done that this spring.
Yep.
To me, it's going to be Jamie French. I just think that there's a level of smoothness combined with a level of athleticism, size, speed, hands. Put that all together, and you got a savvy route runner who can get open even against some of these older defensive backs that he'll be going against. He's my number one guy that I'm hoping to hear kind of takes that next jump in this, first group offense.
Coach, your thoughts? Which one of these young receivers can benefit the most?
That's exactly who I was going to say.
Okay.
He personally, he's the one that I'm probably the most excited. There's lots of great ones out there, but he's one that I'm really, really excited about. Just everything, his work ethic, his attitude, his love and desire to be at the University of Texas. I can't wait to see how he progresses this spring and see if he gets. And it's possible to be in that circle and maybe be the first man up, off the bench. That's what I'm hoping that he will accomplish this spring. If he doesn't earn a starting role, he's going to be. I would love to see him be in the mix. He would be my choice as well.
Yeah, we know through the first, Sarkis even said it, obviously not Ohio State necessarily, but through those other non-conference games, you're going to see a lot of guys play. And now I think, we'll see who is in the circle of trust, as CB calls it, by the start of SEC play. We'll know by then. These are the guys who have earned the trust of coach. And at that wide receiver position. All right, that's the big news, guys. Unfortunately, the breaking news is that Ryan Wingo probably going to be out for the rest of spring with a hamstring injury. So keep it tuned here to On Texas Football for any other breaking news. Let's thank our last sponsor of the evening, our friends over at Hard Grove Roofing. Then we'll end the winning drive for the day. Hard Grove Roofing, folks, with offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Our friends at Hard Grove Roofing can take care of all of your roofing needs. As a matter of fact, they're offering a free roof inspection. So if you have any concerns about your roof, or if it's been a while since you've gotten your roof done, or if you're just thinking, oh man, maybe I should have someone come out and look at my roof, Hard Grove Roofing, leave it to professionals, folks. And right now they're offering a free roof inspection. Reach out to them, 512-645-3202. That's hardgroveroofing.com. Know who's on your roof with our friends over at Hard Grove Roofing. Like I said, offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. They are the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. They also have great relationships with our friend and my former teammate, lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee and Bert Auburn. You won't find a more pro burnt orange roofing company out there. That's hardgroveroofing.com. All right. Thank you very much to Hard Grove Roofing, to vonlane.com as well. Use that code OTF25. You get $20 off your first trip with Von Lane. Also, thank you to Flat Creek, flatcreekestate.com. Thank you as well to South Point Dodge, southpointdodge.com. Thanks for Bobby for coming on, breaking the news about Ryan Wingo. Thank you guys for all the super chats. We really appreciate all of your participation. Coach, thank you for the wisdom as always. CJ, appreciate all of your hard work as well. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. He is the real MVP. If we missed any of your questions or comments, please direct them to the guys at Coffee and Football tomorrow morning. That'll be at 8:15, and we'll have your Tuesday night live stream. That'll be around 7:15. And best of luck to the ladies tonight. Best luck to the ladies in the Elite Eight. And of course, we'll be talking about all things Texas football at OwnTexasFootball.com. All right. For CJ and for Matthew and for Coach, I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.